Good morning and Happy New Year. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. I'm so glad you could be here. I took a little break over Christmas and I guess maybe I'll get around to showing you what I did. But for a change, I actually have a little bit too much to talk about, so I'm going to be careful about that. I am not going to be telling you the stats of last year because the only stat I'm really interested in is that I'm still doing it. So I'm still doing YouTube, and pretty close to every week of the year you have received a video for 5 years. And I'm going to talk about that next week. And the other stat that I'm kind of interested in occasionally, I'm not usually too interested in the numbers, but every once in a while I take a look and see what videos have had more than 50 views. And, and then I go, oh, that had 50 views. And then I do nothing about it. I don't repeat whatever the content was. I just go, oh, that was cool. And so yeah, no review, no statistics reviewed. The other thing I'm not going to do for you is set any intentions for the new year. My philosophy is that what are those even called? Resolution. A resolution is another opportunity for disappointment. So I don't do those anymore. It is the only successful resolution I have ever made. That the other one I made that I thought was reasonably successful was that I would try to write neater. So not making resolutions, writing neater have been reasonably successful. I don't think I've had books on my radar. You know how some people will talk about most anticipated reads of the year? Well, so I have colossal failure with that because I don't like to buy books in hardcover and prefer soft covers. So, for instance, the book James, when I first heard about it, is like, oh yeah, that is going to be great. I'm going to get right on that. That is so up my alley. And it's been 2 years that I've been waiting for the soft cover to come out. So by the time I get to it, everybody else is like left the room. So I don't do too much in the way of anticipated reads. And probably it would be fun to do a video one time on just all the anticipated reads that were completely disappointing. So that's another reason I just try not to anticipate new releases. So those are the 3 things I'm not going to do for you. What I am going to do is a little wrap up on a project that Jolene and reading across Canada, basically. Jolene at Bookworm Adventure Girl. This will be the 3rd year that she has pulled together some prompts so that you can use these prompts to generate interest for different books with diversity of many different kinds across the Canadian writers, world, country. And the other thing that Jolene did in conjunction with Lindy at Lindy Reads a Lot, I think. I'll link them both below. I'm trying to think now whether it was last year or the year before, but they, through outreach to all their readership, requested suggestions for best Canadian books. And they got so many nominations for what would be the best 100 books. And they ended up breaking it down into subcategories in terms of nonfiction, poetry, new authors. Anyways, they had quite a lot of different subgroups, and out of that, they, as the creators of that incredible list, have had many videos that they've commented, they've used that as their supporting stuff. So what I did was I went through their list and thought, oh, I've read quite a lot. Then there's a couple that I'm just not going to read. And then out of that arose, let me see, how I got six or 7 books that I thought, okay, I'm going to pay attention to those and add them in. Now, last year, Jolene had, I think it was 26 prompts that you could use to generate interest in a book or something. So there were 5 prompts under the cover of a book, like 25 letters or an award on the cover. Then she had setting, so that allowed you to be more regional in your choices. Then there were publishing, such as independent press or a book in translation. And the one that was kind of fun for Lindy and I don't know if she thought it was fun, but it was definitely a challenge. It was to choose a Canadian book published 25 years before you were born. So that would make 1935 for me. And for Lindy, it was also somewhere in the 1930s. And she came up with a book she didn't love, and I've completely forgotten. It was unremarkable. I came up with the author, Mazo de la Roche, but for publication date, it would have put me right in the middle of her. She got about 8 or 10 books in her series. And, well, I don't want to do that. Then, of course, there were authors with different prompts, like a children's author or an author with 2 to 5 books. Then there was some miscellaneous things like short story or a Canadian classic. So I did some of those prompts, but I was not very focused. I was more focused on the 7 books that I had chosen out of her big list. So the first one was Eden Robinson, Son of a Trickster, which I talked about last week. I think I finally got it, and so now it's on my to-do list for January. The History of Burning by Janika Oza. I was ambivalent as to whether that was good. Adversary by Michael Crummey, I did enjoy. I like Michael Crummey. Some people really dislike him, and I can see why. But Michael Crummey's a good author for me. Pool of the Stars by Emma Donahue. I've got in brackets that it was intense with a question mark, so I probably didn't pick that up. And there, Birds Rained Down. That's a whole story. And there's 2 others that I did not follow through on is When We Lost Our Heads by Heather O'Neill. And I think, did I buy it? I just bought a new Heather O'Neill book. Well, new to me. I don't see it. I bought a Heather O'Neill book and lost it. Okay, the other one I did not get was Brother by Davin Sharindi. And I basically just ran out of time. One of the things that did happen last year, and I guess another stat that I do kind of keep is I write down at the front of my journal all the books that I have read for that year. And it's just a plain old list, and I just, it's very simple, and it's got, what my ranking was, and then sometimes in brackets I'll put whether it's a children's book or nonfiction, but it's a very basic list. And I did count, I am 30 books at least less this year in books that I managed to read. And I don't have a goal particularly. That's just been the average for quite a long time. And but what I did do is I listened to about close to 30 audiobooks. So, math, I don't know whether that's important or not. So Birds Rain Down was a book that I really super wanted to read, and it was translated from the French-Canadian book. And in both places I have it written down. I do not have the author. I'll have to look that up. But it got me... Okay, as I'm telling the story, I'm realizing I have to do a video on this. It got me going on, I wanted to read in French because I thought this book sounds so good. I'd like to read it in the French. And I used to be pretty proficient at reading in French. So that started a journey that was incomplete by 100%. So that's a wrap up on reading across Canada in 2025. It was somewhat successful. But I was having a pretty bad reading year, so I'm not surprised that I didn't achieve a ton. Now for 2026, Jolene has already had an announcement about how she's going to run it. And she's going to run it, I guess, she doesn't actually run it. You're on your own. She gives you the prompts and off you go. Go have fun. And maybe that's one of the reasons I was a little less attentive. Maybe I need to have my hand held along the way. But I think also for me, there were probably too many prompts. I think I got a little overwhelmed by all the options and then felt I had to do them all, and yeah, nothing happened. So this year, what she's done is a bingo board. There are also 25 options, but yes, it is. It's one of those bingo chart type things. You probably can't, well, you can see the image, but you're not going to be able to read the words. Yeah. So what I will do at the end of this video, I will I'll put these prompts down in the doobly-doo below, but I will also link you to her announcement video where she has links to a PDF that you can print down. And so basically you just, as you're reading Canadian authors, you decide which one of these prompts it can fit under, or you can take the prompts and go, book shopping in your library or your bookstore or your bookshelf. So they're in alphabetical order. Now, what you can do with these prompts is pretty much anything you like. So for instance, air is the first one. You might choose a book cover that has clouds on it. You might choose something that has to do with aviation. You might choose something that has to do with someone who boasts too much. They're full of hot air. So the other prompts are animal, beauty, cold, and diversity, earth, fire, film, food, and free. And free in this case doesn't mean like it's an empty block. It means has something to do with freedom. So, or being free, or let free, or maybe you got the book for free, or something along those lines. Friendship, history, and then there is a free space, so you can put in nothing or something right there. Home, hospitality, love, north, peace, people, reconciliation, sports, storytelling, strong, true, and water. So I think that those are pretty good prompts. They're fairly general, but you could, like in my mind, I can already kind of think of ways I would handle it. But the one that was kind of throwing me was sports. I don't generally read about sports. But then a couple of days later, one of the Canadian booktubers that I was watching, and I didn't write it down, recommended a book about Dorothy Hamill, the Canadian figure skater, who I guess in the 50s, like really rocked the world of figure skating, and it's a biography. And so biography, okay, I can read it. Memoir, no. So gonna go for it. And just that's a surprise to me that there's a Canadian sports book that I might actually be interested in. The other ones I'm looking for, I think Who Has Seen the Wind is a Canadian classic that I've been meaning to reread. And Peace by Chocolate is a nonfiction, I guess it's kind of memoir in a way, but it's by a Syrian family who's landed in Nova Scotia, up Truro, I think up by Truro. And they have started a chocolate candy factory, and they've gone from just a family of people making chocolate to one of the larger employers in the area of Truro. And I do not know whether their chocolates have gone past Atlantic Canada in terms of like getting across borders. They're very good. And what they're doing, they're very responsive. So I think when we had that whole little brouhaha with Trump being an idiot and making disparaging remarks about Canada, they ended up coming up with a chocolate bar that was called Elbows Up. And they've also will do things that are kind of connected to peace. Peace is spelled P-E-A-C-E. And they're just about things related to kindness, love, family, community, and so it's a great thing that's happened in Nova Scotia as a result of these people moving in. And I think I have not read River Thieves by Michael Crummy, and I think if I read that, I will be kind of caught up with Michael Crummy. I don't really have a reason why I should be caught up with Michael Crummy, but it's just something that might happen. So I think that, let's see, as far as, so reading across Canada is just something that's going to be in the background for me, and I'll try to remember to mention it every time I come across something that will fit in this bingo board. But also, I just have so many other things I want to be reading. I will not become preoccupied by it. So it's more of happy happenstance, or opportunism. Well, I think that's it. Oh, I was going to tell you about something. Something that was a complete surprise to me. I picked this up from the library. I mentioned it to you, I think, in the last video. The City of Light, City of Poison, Murder, Magic, and the First Police Chief of Paris by Holly Tucker. Now, I couldn't figure out why. I still don't know why I put it on my to-do list. It's nonfiction, and honestly, I have no idea how I connected to this book. I loved it. I do not like nonfiction as a rule. Mostly, why? I don't know why I don't like nonfiction. I just don't find it's often very accessible in terms of you either get the author's journey on doing the research, and I just don't care, or it's a little bit too dense, and so I like a nonfiction book that has to be very reader friendly, not dumb it down, but something where you can become engaged in the story as well. So I guess a bit of storytelling as part of that. So I just dropped into this book. I read it so fast, I couldn't believe how fast I was reading. And there's pictures. So what we've got is Paris in the 1600s under Louis XIV, the Sun King. And at that time, Paris was pretty much a slop hill. They filth everywhere, no lighting, huge amount of crime. It's like this Sun King is supposed to be the best ruler in the world, determined by God, and he's living in this swine heap. And as crime and so forth is just becoming out of control, ambassadors from other countries are going, this city is terrible. It's like, why do they think this is one of the best cities in the world? It's terrible. So as a result, Louis XIV decides to hire a couple of people, one that's more on the military side of things, because he liked his wars, and then more on the sort of civil, what would you call them? The infrastructure, let's say. It was not urban planning, but this person was in charge of things like lighting and keeping the streets clean and trying to get the crime rate down. And so these two, and also the judiciary system was just swamped. So these two guys come along. Nicolas de la Reynie, and the other guy, it's not mentioned in here, but there's two others that are really, important. So he gets lights into the city. He gets the streets cleaned up. They start to figure out ways that communities can be more responsible for their own street cleanliness. Things are outlawed, like you can't pour your slops out into the road anymore. Dead animals have to be taken off the road. Just simple things like this. But as that's becoming more successful, and he's having a little more luck in getting a police force that's somewhat effective, and there's now what do you do when you've got a crime and it's one person's say-so against another person's say-so? The French have got a different way of achieving, or in this time they have a different way of achieving justice than, I guess nobody really, I'm thinking while I'm talking, that a lot of times before we get a really good judiciary system, I say that with great skepticism, we have a whole lot of, it's easy to prove someone's guilty, but it's very difficult to prove someone's innocent. And so this is one of the things that I feel was skewed at this time in history. you could be sentenced to death on the hearsay of 2 or 3 other people. So evidence is not part of the process. Evidence at those times was someone else's testimony, which was quite often achieved under torture. And in fact, it was a regular part of the system in France, was that even after you had been found guilty, you still had to undergo torture, because they wanted to make sure that you had told everything that you could tell, in case you had accomplices that you were protecting and so on. So definitely there's some problems there. Well, doesn't a poisoning case come to light? Doesn't it turn out that as things are being revealed, it's creeping higher and higher up the societal chain until we get to Louis XIV's mistresses? Were they trying to poison their husbands? If they were trying to poison their husbands so they could be mistresses to Louis XIV, would they have been thinking about assassinating the king as well? Like, how far was this going to go? So this whole poisoning thing just hits all kinds of levels of society, and like apothecaries and healing women or doctors, and like it just trickles out. People who tell fortune tellers, and the rich. Okay, all right, here's another little mystery for me. If you're like the noble mistress of Louis XIV, why would you go down to the slums for a fortune seeker? Like, I'm squeamish, I guess. I mean, I would just say, yeah. Anyways, for me, it was a little question as to how true some of this was. But I'm not the researcher. So this researcher, Holly Tucker, right? Yeah, Holly Tucker. She goes through original documents. They somehow have been preserved in the archives in France. Everything from this trial has been preserved, and so she could get into the original documents, and she makes her case here for how things transpired, and who was burned, and who was hung, and who was executed, and who was imprisoned, and who tattled on who. And oh, it's very interesting. I mean, I don't particularly love that era of history, but it was just quite a little snarl of intrigue and backstabbing and jealousies. And of course, the people who are in charge of discovering this, well, you got to tell the king. And is the king going to be happy about the news? And so there's a little bit of, you tell him, no, you tell him. Also, some of this coincided with some of Louis's wars, and he didn't really want to be distracted from some things. But so he had a very interesting attention span. Yeah, let's go with that. I think Louis XIV, now I only know him through theater, because he was very instrumental in a lot of theatrical development. He liked his musicals, and the Sun King, the grander the king, the grander the revelries around him. So as a result, quite a lot of theater, the history of theater is very closely tied to that era. And things like trap doors dropping down, or wheels that would allow people to fly through the air. So yeah, he was quite an interesting guy. Or quite very interesting things happened during his reign. I think also, if you're a foodie, and you would probably notice that a lot of really interesting recipes came out of his reign, because I think that's when things like meringue and marzipan and just really hit their zenith. So I really recommend this. Is a 5 out of 5 for me, and it's the first nonfiction book in a while that I could say really top drawer for me. So I'm going to come back with a wrap up for December, and I've got a 5-year anniversary video that I'm planning for you guys, because that's where we are. And yeah, just other things. I hope you have a really good reading year to come, and I hope that you're not shoveling. I hope that for you the last time. I hope your shovels are nicely tucked in a closet somewhere. But I hope all your reading dreams and adventures come true as well. Bye-bye for now.